We may have been gone for a week, but here we are, back again. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Corey.
And this week we are discussing the brand new album by the Foo Fighters, But Here We Are. Kind of an unexpected release this year. I'm not gonna lie. This was not a band I was predicting to release an album this year, and I think many were in that same boat as me, I'm thinking.
Yeah, because they went silent and no fault to themselves or anything in that situation. You get down and get with family, and they went right off the grid, and nobody was sure what was going to come of that.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of talk that this band might just be over because, well, for those who don't know, last year, Taylor Hawkins, the band's drummer for 25 years almost, died suddenly of a drug overdose or possibly an enlarged heart. There were a couple of different things said. So, a huge loss, and the second most well-known member of the band after leader Dave Grohl. So it was very unsure what was going to happen after that.
I'll tell you why I 100% thought they would never get back. They would never move on as the Foo Fighters. And that is because, in my opinion, Dave Grohl found the only person on the planet at this point when they came together, and maybe still, other than that awesome little girl on TikTok and whatnot that plays Grohl to a T. But anyway, he found the only person that could play as well, if not better, as him. He found a drummer that was as profound as himself and had stylings that were so very close to Grohl. Again, in my opinion, but I mean, they were a kindred spirit as far as that drumming style and that level of drumming went. They were two peas in a pod. So that's very tough. And I never thought that they would move forward as Foo Fighters. There's no doubt in my mind that Dave Grohl, anyone in that whole entire band would move on as musicians. They're killers. They've been for years. They've come from all walks of the musical spectrum, but I never thought they'd move on as the Foos.
Yeah, because immediately after Hawkins passed away, they canceled the remaining tour dates for 2022. We were supposed to go to one of those shows, and it didn't happen.
And they only did what? That one show that his son played? Am I correct with that?
Yes, the Hawkins tribute concert. They did do that. But this album was announced in April, and it was like, oh, there's a new album coming out. And it turns out that the drummer on the album is Dave Grohl himself.
I'll tell you right now, the first time I listened to it, I did not know that it was Grohl. But I was clawing, couldn't wait. Hand to the man, could not wait until the end of the first listen so I could jump online and figure out who was drumming. And I was like, they're killing it, dude. It's like whoever he's got is on this level that I spoke of earlier, and come to find out it's him. And that, man, that elevated this album in so many different ways. But like, woo-wee, we'll talk all about that. But yeah, Dave Grohl drumming on this album, man, a fitting beast for this album.
Yes, very, very much so. And in inspiration, of course, much like the Ed Sheeran album we discussed, he took inspiration in the loss of his musical brother and friend, Taylor Hawkins, but also, I didn't know this, his mother died last year, Virginia.
I did not know that either, but oof.
Yeah, it wasn't publicly announced, it sounds like, until now.
Heard.
And they were pretty close from what I understood. They were pretty tight, him and his mom.
Yeah. They were documented. She was one of his biggest fans.
I think they even had a book together.
So I wasn't going to speak on it because I didn't know, and I didn't think about this till just now, but I'm pretty sure it was him. They started a series. I don't know if it was Netflix or Disney Plus, but where they were doing different artists and their moms. And it was either him and her that started that. For some reason, I was thinking it was another artist, but it might have been them.
They did some kind of project together for sure.
Maybe Pharrell. But yeah, but that happened. That was real.
Dave Grohl and Pharrell. Now that would be a combo. Actually,
that would be an awesome combo there. But yeah, long story short, mind blowing footnote inside of doing the research on this album was to find out. Now, this was after my second listen through, and I found that out on the wiki, and I was like, oh my gosh. So a lot of the times going through the lyrics, the second listen through I had, easily equated them with Hawkins. And then there were some empty spots where I was like, man, that's a tough correlation for me. But then find out that he's also writing about the loss of his mother. So it fills in everything. In my opinion, it fills in everything as far as being able to connect where he was lyrically throughout this album.
Yes, most certainly. And album was just released, but so far the reviews have been pretty glowing. Actually, it has a Metacritic score of 86 right now. And that's might be their highest ever.
Wow.
I think, actually. And a lot of people are thinking it's their best in a long time.
I also read that it was either Grohl or the band said that each album they did, they tried to make as a response to the prior one. And early on, he had said he was going after this progressive rock type of album, which I always thought was weird. But, seeing where it goes here, it makes total sense.
Yeah, but obviously the plans also did change a bit too. And they even described the sound of the album as sonically challenging that naivete of Foo Fighters' 1995 debut album, informed by decades of maturity and depth, while lyrically exploring a brutally honest and emotionally raw response to everything Foo Fighters have endured recently. 10 songs that run the emotional gamut from rage and sorrow to serenity and acceptance, and myriad points in between.
Yeah, I read that too. And it's crazy because you go back to my first listen notes, and for me, there's multiple references to their old style and old songs, not just because they are who they are, but I feel intentional references. And it's neat to see them say or be heralded and say that it's like a Foo Fighters that have been informed by the Foo Fighters, through these years.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And that shines through in this album. That's an awesome way to say it.
Yeah, but it kind of is a parallel to that debut just in terms of the circumstances, because that debut Grohl did after Kurt Cobain died a year after, and now he's doing this a year after Taylor Hawkins died. So there is a parallel there that is pretty obvious, frankly, but it's important to note.
As obvious as it is in hindsight, I'm telling you right now, I did not draw the line, and I love that thought. Dave Grohl, what a wild man. He's one of my favorite. I'll go out before we get into this. He's one of my favorite artists of all time. He is up there for me. Just growing up with him, growing up watching him. I won't even say growing up with him because I think he's just a tad bit older than me, but still, regardless, just his sound period was in so many pieces of my life. He's such a he is definitely up there for me. He is the man.
Yep, and he is still going strong. And yeah, I'm curious to see how this album's I'm sure I feel like a good amount of people are going to be buying it for sure.
Yeah.
Streaming doesn't seem super high, but this isn't really that band, I don't think. Yeah.
I agree with you there. I still think it's under the radar. When I tell people there's a new Foo Fighters album out, they're like, get out of here. Like, yeah jump on it because it's out.
A lot of new releases seem to be going under the radar lately. I mean, Dave Matthews just had their first album miss the top spot in a long time with their new release.
Yeah. And that's another one that people don't know it's out there.
Yeah, like who knew? But
yeah,
it is here, and I also am predicting that this album's going to be nominated and will win Grammys because the Foo Fighters are Grammy favorites.
Oh, this album here? Yeah, most definitely.
I mean, they've already won the album for best rock, the award for best rock album 5 times. So,
I mean, on top of that, they're back in it with Greg Kurstin, who has his share of nominations and wins out there. I mean, for all
including the last Foo Fighters album.
Well, yeah. Well, he's got a few of their nominations under them, and then
Adele.
Sia, Adele. Yeah, 30 was his. Like, get out of here. This guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah, so just come that time of year, we'll definitely be hearing about this. That's for sure. If you're not hearing about it now, you will then.
Yeah, you know, it's sad to say, but that's when it'll blow up. And
Oh
that's okay,
yeah.
you know. People will get to listen to it.
It who knows? Maybe it has a shot at album of the year. It's a comeback narrative. I think that's really powerful. I think people like that.
I think it's safe to say here, or you know, without going too far into breaking down the album, the band has even gone to say that this is a new band, a new Foo Fighters
Yeah.
in their words. So yeah, comeback story at the very least, and maybe a new origin story in some ways as well.
Yeah. There is something coming. So I think this is in many ways a premature evaluation, but that's what we're going to do here anyway, because there's still a lot to dive into with this one.
There is indeed.
So with that being said, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
There's nothing to be said about the cover. If you've seen the cover of the Beatles' White Album, you've seen the cover of this album. So
which again, you know, talking about the rebirth, I think is fitting. You know, there's nothing to put on here other than a white blank canvas, because you know the rebirth of this new Foo Fighters is at hand. So I think it works there. But
yeah, you are not wrong. But anyway.
Inspired by the life of the savvy and ambitious Colombian businesswoman Griselda Blanco comes a new Netflix original limited series. Griselda tells the story of a devoted mother who, with her lethal blend of charm and relentless savagery, creates one of the most powerful cartels in history. Witness Sofia Vergara's captivating transformation into the godmother of the underworld. Griselda, streaming January 25th, only on Netflix.
The album begins with what was the lead single, Rescued. I did not listen to any of the singles beforehand. I don't like to do that for new releases we do.
No.
Well, except Flowers was inescapable, obviously, but that's not relevant to this. So but anyway, so yeah, we've got Rescued, and I mean, yeah, the lyrics are pretty clearly about his grief. Like he's just waiting to be rescued from it because it's so overwhelming, which is definitely a universal feeling. Definitely a universal feeling after losing a friend or a relative or any of that. But at the same time, definitely a classic Foo Fighters sound. This sounds like a Foo Fighters song. It's very punchy opener. It's got the big chords. It's loud. I mean, the lyrics are a bit somber, but I think it still works with it, the intensity of it, because there is a intensity involved with grief, and it supplies itself pretty well to this song. I definitely think this is the most radio-friendly song here, and I think that's a good thing and a bad thing, because, I mean, radio friendly, that's good. It means it's memorable, it's catchy. I'm sure it would be a great show opener, but I think there are other songs here that just stick out more because they take more chances and as a result are more powerful. But I think this is a solid opener for the album.
I 100% agree with you. Solid opener for the album. Charlie said it, I'll say it again. Immediately, automatically from the get-go, the Foo Fighters feel is here, their sound is here, their fingerprint is all over it within the first couple of seconds, and you know who you're listening to. Yeah, you know, we're right here inside of the realization of death to someone that's close to you, whether it be Hawkins or his ma, but just death period for anyone. You feel it. Those somber lyrics, you feel it, you know. In no way have they ever said this is set up to be a concept or anything, but I also, if you listen before, you know, or if you're a first-time listener, I always like to imagine, put myself in an adventure with the band, with the lyrics as we go through, and this one really lends itself. So this is the beginning, you know, this is right after finding out someone that you love is dead, and it's powerful. I love the line, the kings and queens and in-betweens. I love it. I don't know why, it just sings to me. But here in the first track of this new Foo Fighters album, at 2:40, we get that old school Grohl drum, Foo Fighter-esque crescendo, and then we fall off to the guitars and vocals, and immediately it takes me back to This Is a Call, like all the way back to original Foo Fighters, right into This Is a Call. And I love that about this song. This is a really, really great way to open this album.
Most definitely. And we're gonna just keep it going now with our second track, which is Under You, which kind of a twist on being over you, but I'm not gonna lie, when I hear this, I think of Ross asking Rachel, when were you under me? But that has nothing to do with this song, obviously. So yeah, this song it's pretty clearly about Taylor Hawkins, and like he feels like, when will I get out from under you? And in some ways I think this might be about Grohl feeling under what. So an interpretation I read of this online said they wondered if it was of him coming out from under the shadow of Taylor's drumming. And I'm not sure I agree with that, because it's always been Dave Grohl's band, make no mistake. But hearing that, it made me wonder, is that possibly a callback to his former bandmate, Mr. Cobain?
How so?
Because Cobain was the face of Nirvana, and Grohl may have very well felt under him, and here he is playing the drums again for this band, which he hasn't done on a full album in a long time.
Wow, I love that thought. That's a really cool interpretation there.
That's what I'm thinking, because I don't think that loss, it may have been almost 30 years ago, but I think losing another bandmate, probably, I would think it could have definitely brought up some feelings of the prior loss as well.
Oh man, I'm blown away by that. I mean, two of the lines that I have here in my notes, pictures of us sharing songs and cigarettes and thinking I'm getting over it, but there's no getting over it, just strengthens that thought, strengthens that interpretation. That's wow. Kudos, Charlie. That's really, I love that, man. I really love that.
Yeah. So, but as for the song itself, it's not quite as aggressive as the opener. It's been described as melodic punk, which I think makes sense. I think it has a bit of the punk sound in the drums, but it's still too streamlined to be punk, because this is the Foo Fighters. It's not really punk, but I can see where they're coming from with that one. I like this one. I think it's a good song that kind of explores another facet of grief, and I like that we're doing that here. So
yeah, I'm right with you on the next facet of grief, if not just to aid my narrative throughout this whole grieving process, which is what this album is in my interpretation. This is a look to getting out of the sadness of losing a friend. But with that 90s intro, I'm right with you with that 90s melodic sound. In my notes, I had that it was very Weezer Blue Album-esque early on, with that Foo Fighters overlay on it, and I dug that. This is a really cool number 2, and it sets a great tone for the way this album is going.
Yes, and because we are going to explore another facet of grief with track number 3, which is Hearing Voices, which is about wanting to hear a loved one's voice again. I'm hearing voices, but none of them are you. Again, real stuff there. That's I will say relatable, a bit redundant lyrically. I do think that's kind of the point, but that kind of does make me not enjoy it quite as bit as the previous 2 songs. But there is one line in here that really stuck out to me a lot, and it was, "No one lies like you." And that made me think if Grohl maybe had some anger towards his bandmate, because there's been quite a bit of controversy over Taylor Hawkins's cause of death. It was reported there were a lot of drugs in his system, and many of the people in Hawkins' inner circle were saying, no, he was not using hard drugs. Maybe is Grohl angry because he didn't know, possibly? Like, was Taylor just covering it up too well? But again, who knows? I do think it's kind of one thing that kind of just hints deeper at it's not just missing the person, there is a bit more to it, and I like that, and I kind of wish that was actually explored a bit more here on the album in general, because I do think there are some other feelings there, but we don't know for sure, of course, because it's not being presented, but just something I'm speculating on.
Yeah, no, and I like that. I like that deep thought into this, because if you look at that, it really does lend itself to these other voices being these rumor filled voices that he's having to deal with through this time of death, this time of loss. So that makes sense there, and I think that strengthens it. And I agree with you. This one was definitely a grower period for me. I do enjoy this track, but this one definitely was one that left me wanting as far as the search lyrically. I'm totally with you there. I'm glad you said that. But onto a musical sense in this is really the progressive rock, or the start of that progressive rock sound that I think he was talking about for me, especially in the chorus. Another thing I love musically about this track, and this is why I say it's a grower, the more I listen to it, the more I really love that the changes between the movements in this composition, they happen seamlessly, but they happen without warning musically. Usually musically, we get a little warning of these changes, whether it be to the bridge, to the refrain, but musically this just shifts, and it shifts, like I said, seamlessly and perfectly, but it shifts so fast. It aids that thought of these different voices, going throughout, but it grows on me, and that's why one of the main reasons I enjoy this song.
Yeah. I agree that it was a grower. I found more to like over time with it. That is for sure. And with that being said, let's just keep it going. Track number 4, which is the title track, But Here We Are, which is just again kind of illustrating where they are in the grieving process. It's like, well, but here we are. Didn't plan on it, but here we are. This one, I don't think it really says anything new about the grief at this point. Like, it's another facet, but I don't think it adds as much to the previous songs did. And I just find it kind of redundant, and I think Grohl's shouting too much in the song for my taste. I know he's not the most technically gifted singer. I know this isn't what I was expecting, but here it's just a bit too much with the bit too much of the screaming for me.
Heard that. I think the screaming here is a cathartic scream inside of a like really intense first part of this, dealing with the loss of a loved one / friend. But that being said, I love this song, man. It drives from the first note. The bridge in this song is so sick. I think a lot of the love for this album period is Grohl drumming on this one. It's just, it blows my mind. So when he drums at 321, for me, these are some of the angriest, and I will say, hopefully, and they sound cathartic and just soul emptying, just leave it all on those drums that I've heard him play in a minute. And the thing that I love about that, and that you didn't enjoy so much, but they culminate with this scream, man. He does it a couple times throughout, and it gets me. He goes at it again later on at that 4-minute and 20-second mark. I really love this song. I have loved this song in all caps, just a stream of exclamation points. But this one gets me, man. I really jam with this song.
All righty. Well, hey, different strokes for different folks. I don't hate it, but I don't love it.
It's again that, and this comes after listening, but like those screams before what we see on the next track is another reason why I love it, because it's a very sharp contrast, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It actually does lead us well into our next track, which is The Glass, which is more mellow. And I think it's good to have a more mellow song after 4 heavy rockers in a row, but still does rock. I would say this is kind of a power ballad.
Heard?
Not like in the Learn to Fly sense, but still a power ballad. And yeah, it's a metaphor for seeing right through something. I feel like you could have also called the song The Mirror.
Heard.
Because the title's never said during the song, but I don't think that makes it any less effective. I think this is a very real metaphor, because sometimes when you are grieving, people can just see that on you.
Yeah.
And they see right through you, and you can try to hide it, but you're not hiding it from, you're not fooling anybody. And I think this song really illustrates that very well. And I think it still rocks, like it still keeps it going very nicely. And yeah, I really just don't have much more to say other than I really enjoyed this song. This is my favorite from the first half of the album. I
Yeah.
just really thought it was a well done power ballad.
It is. I mean, we slow it down, and then here we go. Now, this is a Hawkins one, and I say this without a doubt
I
because
agree.
he uses the he and him inside of this. But I love this thought of being on one side of a window and watching the storm pass on the other side. So in this song, for me, Hawkins is that storm, and he's watching. And not only can he see, and I love that he does this, the lyrics, it says that he can see the reflection of him in watching this storm. But I think, and this is where I got into the drug related, they had that throughout their relationship, as band members, as friends, where you always want to see one of your best friends, family members, not having to suffer through that addiction. And that for me was equated here with this, the symbolism of the storm. And I love that. Waiting on the side of the glass, helpless, because you're on the other side, just watching the storm, hoping it'll pass, but seeing your reflection in it. It's a somber end to the song too. You're right, it has that ballad-esque quality, and it really just ends on this wild, somber piece. This is a great song. This is a
It
really,
is.
really great song. I can't say enough. It's a powerful piece. Just
Yeah.
even thinking back on it while I talk about it, it evokes emotion. It was a really well done song.
Agreed. Just it's one, definitely stream it for sure. Check
Yeah.
that one out.
Another cool part about this song for me, and maybe it's hot tea, but Foo Fighters in 95 couldn't have done this. And it's something we speak to when we're saying that these are the Foo Fighters that are learned by this 10 years of being out there and doing it. This is a perfect example. This is not, in my opinion, something that they could have done in 95.
Yeah. Well, I would hope they're not repeating themselves now. So with that being said, we're gonna move on to, I guess, side two of the album, which is for what it would be on vinyl. And it is on vinyl, so I can say that. It starts with a song called Nothing at All, which is another song about grief and just having to go on afterwards. Yeah, this is my least favorite on the album. This is the gun to the head. I just don't think it really says anything that we haven't already heard at this point. And just again, a little too screamy for me. I agree they're cathartic screams, but it's just doesn't pack as much of a punch for me as some other stuff here, I guess we could say. Especially, well, spoiler alert, especially considering what follows this one. I think that's what hurts it a bit for me, because we're not done yet, folks.
So this one was wild at first listen, to say the least. Immediately, because of this offbeat strum that happens that is super not characteristic of them or their sound at all. It's again, I go back to this progressive rock sort of sound, but it's definitely, it caught me just because it was so off from their sound. I'm on the other side as far as it being gun to head worst. I enjoy this song. I'm a sucker for a good old Grohl drum crescendo, and at 1 minute he hits something. I have 3 different songs here that it evokes from me, like a little bit of lounge act. It reminds me of the Carrie refrain from Bullet with Butterfly Wings, and it also harkens back to the Foo Fighters times like these for me. Like, it really hits hard, pure emotion drumming, and really embodying the lyric of everything or nothing at all. And then it's almost like another scream after the sadness of the glass. And then we go back to this more reserved progressive sound with this offbeat strum. It's 100% not a Foo Fighters sound. Maybe it's a new Foo Fighters sound. I wouldn't say I hate it though.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I hate it. It's
Well,
just
yeah.
not It is my least favorite here, but admittedly, I will say you are more familiar with this band than I am. This is actually the first album I've ever heard of theirs front to back.
Dig it.
I know the hits. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm familiar with the hits, and I enjoy those hits. I enjoyed them enough to buy a ticket to their concert.
Heard.
I figured, it would be a great show, but yeah, I don't know all the Easter eggs like that. So maybe if I did, I would appreciate more. So in fairness, I think you bring a valid point to that. But if this isn't your least favorite, I'm a little concerned that one of these next songs is your least favorite.
You never know.
Oh boy, I'm okay. Well, anyway, now I'm worried. But anyway, in the meantime, we're at track number 7, Show Me How. This one probably is more so about his mother. And the reason for that is because the first time I heard this song, I just wondered, who is the woman singing with him? Turns out it's his daughter, Violet. And it's like, okay, hold up. What?
I couldn't find it. I was waiting to ask you and hoping you had an answer.
It's his daughter.
Wow, she's a beautiful voice.
She does. She can sing. I want to know, who is this woman singing? She's good.
Yeah.
And their voices blend really well together, which is impressive. I don't think Dave Grohl has the easiest to blend with voice because it's so guttural, but it's done here. And this is one, it's a very new sound. It has this real dreamy feel to it, which is not what I would expect from the Foo Fighters. This is like that dreamy sound that's kind of like what we heard from Lana Del Rey, not the Foo Fighters, and it's here, and it's really well done. And I think that the addition of his daughter just gives it so much more gravitas, because he's just really wondering who's going to show me how to do it. And that also makes it seem like it's about his mother, because the Hawkins relationship was a brother, but your mother is the one who's going to show you how. And it was also a loss for Violet too, being that's her grandmother. She showed her a lot too, I'm sure. And then it ends with just Violet singing it too, and just what a powerful song. Definitely one of the best here.
Gravitas is an understatement. Holy shit, it's his daughter on this. That is so insane, man. It adds level upon level upon level upon layer upon layer. That is wild. Here's my original notes for this song. Love the melody of the song, love the way the song is built, love the duet, love the writing inside of the lyrics. This is the segue of emotions on this album. That was my first listen through. Like, this one is a very dreamy, is a great way to put it. This one is a very sometimes I talk about the listener being able to take a breath musically. This is one of the most beautiful music breaths that we've encountered in a long time. This is 100% for me, his mother. Just beautiful, beautiful lyrics inside. Such a great song. You said it too. He doesn't have a very approachable duet voice. And not knowing that, actually, it doesn't really matter if that it's his daughter or not. Listening to this over and over again, he, in my opinion, takes it very seriously. His singing on this, his low baritones are trained baritone notes, and it's wild to hear him sing like that. And it was one of the first thoughts I had, like, wow, he's really like in it 100%. Something I don't think I've ever seen with him as far as singing goes, and it was unique as well. This song is a bright shining light. If this is the new sound or a piece of the new sound, or it is a piece of the new sound, but I love it, man. I love this song.
Yes, and also Violet Grohl, if you're listening, I think you should do some Lana Del Rey-esque music.
Heard that.
You'd be great at it. If you don't write songs, at least do some covers, girl.
I hope she's on tour regardless with them. You know, I'd like to think that they take their family, but this is the time for you to tour with your dad. Get out there and have a blast, and do this every single night you guys play an arena.
Well, as of now, this has not been on any of their set lists so far.
Really? Oh, so maybe she's not. And maybe that's an active choice too. and I respect it.
Maybe they will do more songs from this album in the future, though. Now that it's out, but
hopefully,
one can hope. One can hope. And we're going to kind of keep going with that low baritone vibe with our next song, Beyond Me. And this song, it begins with this keyboard loop, which is actually quite beautifully done, I think. And this just explains Dave feels how it's just beyond him that Taylor is gone. Like, how can someone go so young? Because Hawkins was only 50. It was a big shock to hear that he died. It was like, what? No way. On tour, no, it was very, like, it is hard to comprehend. It doesn't make sense. And he just really is to the point and shows it here. And I really like that. And again, he's not the most technically gifted singer. But I think that the raw emotion in his vocal here, you just hear it all there. And that just makes it work. The vocal actually does make the song for me. But the production works too. This is another winner for me.
Yeah, this for me is him being able to let go in this grieving process, or at least find an acceptance inside of this forever young and free thought that he has by the end of this song for Hawkins. And I love it. And you are 100% on the nose. You can feel it throughout this whole piece. There's, as sad as it might be, or somber is a word we've been using a lot throughout this podcast tonight, or throughout this album, but for me, there's a happiness that's inside of this composition, and I love it. I love the way that feels, and then at that 3-minute mark, we get a breakthrough and a loud guitar and a loud feeling, and for me, that's that acceptance. That's that goodbye forever young and free. And I love that. This is a very powerful track, very powerful second half of this album. Not that the first wasn't, but this second half is very freeing in a sense for me as well.
Oh, I know what you mean. And the thing is, we're kind of just getting started with the second half, because we've got the whopper of them now. Track number 9, the second to last song here, The Teacher.
TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right. New music inspiring a new financial future. With 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
This song is 10 minutes long. And it does sound like this was about his mother. I did some research. She was a teacher, so that's where we get the title, because you don't hear it in the song, but she is the teacher in this case. Oh boy, a lot to unpack with this one. This isn't one straight 10-minute jam. No, this is a multi-part song, and I'm just gonna say, no, it's brilliant. This is basically the stages of grief in a 10-minute song. That's what this is. I mean, this album is very much that too, but no, they did this all in one song. Like, he is going through all of the emotions here. He's wondering, what am I going to do now? Who's at the door now? Where will I wake up? And I'm gonna say, so my favorite part of the song comes at 5:24. It's a transition where he says, "You showed me how to breathe, never showed me how to say goodbye." It is so heart-wrenching and powerful, and it's making me teary-eyed right now, because you're just like, oh my goodness, you just hit the nail on the head. It was just so real. And then he says, like, try and make good of the air that's left. And it's just, he's really telling us to keep going and live our life as best as we can. And then it just ends with this cathartic goodbye screaming outro that shows that he's accepted it. It's just such a brilliant song.
100% brilliant. This is such a wild, long piece that is not wasted. But my first listen was very this is one of the holes that I didn't understand. And now by the second listen that I knew that he had lost his mother as well inside of this. This is akin to Beyond Me. For me, this is this goodbye to his mother. And the teach me, how to breathe. You didn't teach me how to grieve. The like you were saying, there's so many beautiful, powerful lyrics throughout this. This is a true goodbye to his mom. And going into it musically, and really, it's a beautiful piece all the way. But the end of this, when he is speaking and then screaming the words goodbye, we are shown this wild distortion that slowly takes over this goodbye and just rips the music apart until this song is over, with this just cackling distortion over top of this goodbye. And for me, that speaks to it being so powerful of a goodbye, that distortion for me, and it comes up again in the next track, and hopefully and tie this together, but it really speaks to tears for me, like uncontrollable tears that you can still play music through and still talk through, but they're gonna overtake the whole entire thing. And so that distortion for me at the end is these real tears. Such a wild, beautiful 10-minute. It has the most, if I'm not mistaken, well, on Spotify, it has the biggest numbers on the whole album. And it's wild. And that speaks to its genius, in my opinion, because it's a 10-minute song. And you don't usually see those larger numbers on albums like this for a 10-minute song. But whoo-wee, I guarantee you people will be using this song for years and years and years to come as this album, but this song as a grieving song, as a goodbye song. It's a masterpiece. It really is.
Yeah, most definitely. But after that, the song ends very abruptly, and I kind of think, oh, the album's over, because what's the point of going after that? But it's not over. We have one more song, which is Rest, and it starts off with a whisper, as Dave is saying, you can rest now. Like, after he said goodbye to his mom and Taylor, he's saying, you can rest now. And it blasts off halfway through into a whole song, but we have the aggressive background against that same chorus. Lots of distortion against it, but it's still really powerful closer. And I think it just shows, like, I've accepted this. I know that you were in pain. I know you were struggling, but you are at peace now. You can rest now. And that is a beautiful message.
And a perfect message to end this coping album, this grieving album, this walk through this total grieving process. When we say distortion, I just want to, for anyone who hasn't heard it yet and is going to listen, it is like a radio white noise distortion that is almost hard to hear through, but it's intentional over top of the song. And that's why I use the example of tears, or I really think that it's akin to this overwhelming release of sadness. It's impossible to hold back, and it's going to cover anything you try to say, but you're still going to go through it. And I like that it makes its way back into this. It's a beautiful piece too. It's a really beautiful composition throughout the song. He even gets to do some heavy, or they even get to do some heavy inside of it. I hate to use the word perfect, but it is really, really an awesome ending. A perfect ending to this album, but almost a perfect ending to just the way albums are set up. It's good, man. That's how good the pacing on this album is, that I didn't even say a word about it, because you can turn it on and it flows. It flows straight through. There's not really a place in here where it loses my interest, and this caps it off at the end.
Most definitely. Now the album is at rest now. What a journey we went on with this one.
Yeah.
A lot of psychiatrist albums lately on this show. This is another one of them.
It is.
Oh boy. Well, the first question I have is, what is your favorite song on the album? I'm curious.
This is one of the hardest ones. I know I say it all the time. I'm gonna go with Man, it's so hard. But here we are. I wrote a bunch down because I couldn't make a distinction, but here we are is one of my favorites. I love that jam, and it gets me. There's so many beautiful ones. I mean, uh, Beyond Me, The Glass, they're all there, but here we are. I think the title track for me is my favorite on this one.
I gotta go with Rust.
Nice.
Just what a perfect closer for me.
Really
That's it. But The Teacher is a very close second.
Yeah. That's on its own level. I don't even think about that as favorite song
I mean,
on this,
yeah, fair.
Just for me.
I know what you mean. That's why I went with Rust partially. But all right, it's grading time. What do We Are the Teachers now? What grade does this get?
This one, Foo Fighters are back, folks, out of nowhere, and out of, as we've talked about and as we see through this whole entire album, out of a grieving process, loss of loved ones on all different levels. But speaking of levels, we see so many, and this is a new level for the Foo Fighters. I haven't said it yet, but I'll say it now. When I heard this album was coming out, I was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if, I don't know what to expect. I don't know if it's a good idea. How are you going to move forward? And they sure as hell found a way to do it, and not only do it, but do it at the top of their game, so far. There is not, I said it before, there's not a place in here where I lost any stream of listening throughout. It is just a moving, well composed, well produced, well paced front to back album for me, and for that I'm going to give it an A.
I had the feeling you would. I am actually going to be a bit harsher on it. I'm going to give it a B. And my reason for it is it's not because these songs are not powerful. It's just that I do think that the songs that take risks with the sound, like the quieter ones, like The Glass, The Teacher, Rest, even Show Me How, Beyond Me, like that half of songs to me is on a different level than the other more traditional sounding Foo Fighters songs. It's not that they aren't powerful songs, and I wouldn't say they all sound the same, but they don't push the boundaries of this band as I know them in the same way those others do. And because I feel like it is kind of an even split in that way, and I just think it's a big distance for me. That's why it's a big.
I hear that. I totally respect it, and I totally love your opinion. And I have to say, I also hope we hear more of that sound from them. I don't necessarily want them to distance themselves from their original sound, but I really loved some of that sound, like you said, and I hope that's the sound that gets picked up and played. I hope some of those songs are the Grammy songs we hear.
Yeah. The Teacher's gotta be nominated for something though. Come on.
It's long. I don't know. I think that's a tough sell to the
no, it isn't.
No,
Taylor got a 10-minute song nominated.
There you go. That gives me hope.
So I think this is definitely very, very much going to be a contender. No doubt in my mind. And it is technically a single, actually. It was put out a bit before the album.
I love it. I'd like to see it.
Yeah, we shall see what happens come Grammy season, but I think the Foo Fighters are going to be doing quite well, actually. I really do. Like, I was honestly thinking like we're going to be seeing a lot of Taylor. I was expecting Midnights to do very well, and I'm sure it still will, but I think that these boys, I think they're going to be up for some Big Four nominations, not just the rock categories this time, because this is a perfect narrative and it is a strong album.
Do we still have a chance to see them this summer?
Do we? I don't know.
They're
not nearby. I know that much.
Yeah, heard that. I've seen them a bunch. I'd love to see them again after this.
Well, we've now learned that the Foo Fighters are not done, and Dave Grohl's not ever going anywhere. He is, not only is he a musician, he's also, he's a businessman.
Ooh. Hot tea take. Dave Grohl is the Paul McCartney of the 90s grunge generation.
I see what you're saying there, because he is not like, he's not Kurt Cobain. He's not like, I'm too good for this at all. Like, no, he likes being a rock star. And I mean, even the controversial Rolling Stone article, which some people, a couple of the interviewees said was taken out of context, but it did point out the Foos have consistently had a heavy concert schedule. They were one of the first bands to come back after the pandemic shutdowns when we began easing into it. He is not going to stop.
Shit, he broke his leg on stage and they toured after that, and he had like a throne he was playing from.
Yeah.
Like, you don't mess around.
Yeah.
They don't stop. They don't stop.
Like, breaks are not something that Grohl does, clearly. That's just not, it's not in him.
Heard.
For better or for worse, that's not in him, I don't think.
We'll see him for years.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. He'll play till he drops. Dave Grohl. Oh, but yeah, that is the first of this new month, and because it is Corey's birth month, we get all of Corey's picks this month. No unified theme, just some of your whatever you want us to do.
Yeah, some wild ones from the crazy back catalog that is my listening adventure.
So what are we doing next week?
All right, so Foo Fighters got me in the 90s vibe, the 90s thought process, and one that I've always wanted to do here with you and explore is the group The Smashing Pumpkins. So next week we are going to take a trip through, a breakdown, and do our thing with their album Siamese Dream.
Okay, yeah, this one I definitely know something off of it. I've definitely heard stuff off of it, but haven't heard it all the way through. So this will be a newer-ish one for me. Not going in completely blind, but this will be good.
My favorites, the ones you haven't heard. I'll tell you right now, as a gambling man, I'd put the house on that you will enjoy it more than OK Computer.
You know,
I'll bet the house on that one.
bet the house. I think you'll be keeping it. But you never know. Maybe I will be moving in after next week.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I might be homeless next week, so tune in and find out.
Tune in and find out, indeedy. And in the meantime, just be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon. We're on all of them. And I have the links to our social media in our bio. And if you also want to do listener support for us, that would be great. And until then, just try not to get too deep in the Siamese Dream that you can't listen to us next week.
Peace.